Once again, good evening all. So today let's start our webinar. Warm greetings to one and all present here. I welcome you all for this webinar on breast milk. It's a mother's gift to child, first gift to child. I'm so happy to have this webinar today. It's a great pleasure to welcome Honorary Correspondent Sir, Sri Gugilam Ramesh Sir, Adored Principal Ma'am, Dr. T. Mohanasri Ma'am, Vice Principal Ma'am, Dr. P.D. Vanitha Ma'am, and Dr. M.V. Napinai Ma'am. Dear colleagues, faculties of other colleges, dear students, and all public who are all attending this webinar. I hope this session will surely make you to take care of lactating mother, their health. So I'm really privileged to have the pleasant task of today's online webinar. At this junction, I am very proud to welcome Ms. K. Vijayameena, who is the resource person. As soon as she completed her MPhil, she entered as Head Department of Interior Design and Decor at our college, Sri Kanika Parameshwari Arts and Science College. I'm so glad to have you as a resource person for this particular webinar, ma'am. From 2003 till 2011, she worked with us. Later, she joined as Child Development Project Officer, ICDS, Integrated Child Development Service, Tamilnadu, across 3 districts. She worked Cuddalore, Kanyakumari, and at present she is working at Tirunelveli, Cheranmahadevi District. So from 2012 till now, she is working as a CDPO officer there. She participated and presented, published various research papers at national level, international level, and so many workshops she organized, and so many seminars she organized, so many field visits we went together. So it's all the golden memories. Really, our students will be very much benefited while hearing you again. Thanks a lot for accepting this program, ma'am. Really, many of us having doubt that really what is ICDS, particularly the students, especially doing what ICDS is doing, what program they are conducting, what government is providing, and for lactating mother and pregnant women, what this Anganwadi, Balwadi places and all they are doing, what the government sector are doing. So all these information of her own field experience, let us share together. And thank you once again for accepting to be a resource person of today's webinar, Ms. Vijayameena ma'am. Now I request Ms. K. Vijayameena ma'am to take over this session. Please, ma'am. Actually, volume is too low, I think so.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Good evening, one and all. First, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Kanika Parameshwari Arts and Science College for organizing this program. My sincere thanks to the correspondent, principal, and HOD of the Department of Home Science and Interior Design, Meena, for ideal representation of the topic and organizing this program. So this time I would like to share what we are doing in ICDS about breast milk. Breast milk is a very important concept that we have taken in ICDS, and we are trying our level best to take it to the public to improve the level of breastfeeding. Now, I think we can start with the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So to start with, sometimes we would like to ask God why he allows poverty, famine, injustice in the world when he could do something about it. The problem is every time we think of that, we are afraid that he might ask us the same question. So breast milk feeding is, what is breastfeeding? It is all about the warmth, love and affection, all enrolled into one given by the mother to her baby. Now, what are the facts that we are going to analyze in this? Only 55% of the Indian children alone are benefited with exclusive breastfeeding. Only 41.6% are breastfed within an hour. 60% death among children under 5 years happens due to malnutrition. And among the 60%, two-thirds are associated with inappropriate feeding practices during the first year of. So each point when we analyze, when we think about it, the easiest way to feed a child and prevent this malnutrition is to give the breastfed milk to the baby. But unfortunately, this does not happen in the field, and so we are facing many problems. So why does this happen? Sometimes women not to breastfeed or continue breastfeeding exclusively for 6 months due to some of the following reasons. There is a lack of knowledge about the benefit of breast milk. There is a lack of knowledge about the benefit of exclusive breastfeeding, and belief that the formula milk or animal milk is equal to some. I'm sorry. Belief that formula milk or animal milk is equal to some, or sometimes they believe it is even better than the breast milk. The lack of encouragement and support from partners, families, and sometimes even healthcare workers. The embarrassment about the adequacy of milk supply, whether it might be insufficient, and thoughts like that. And sometimes even work pressure and many more reasons are there. So, why several mothers do not exclusively breastfeed their babies? They think that breast milk is not sufficient and they give water in addition to breast milk, and sometimes mothers give animal milk in addition to breast milk. And sometimes what some mothers do continue, then how can we support such mothers to continue this exclusive breastfeeding? These are some of the things that we find in the field as problems that we face in which actually hinders exclusive breastfeeding. So why does this happen? Now, as this picture shows, women are nowadays more diverted to many other attentions, and they don't think that giving the breast milk is as important as that. Now, what's the difference when you give breast milk and when you don't give the breast milk? What does that happen? Where is the difference? Now, in these two pictures, we see the newborn calf and a newborn baby. So, what do we see here? A newborn calf can stand immediately after birth, but a newborn baby does not do that. So, what difference it makes? Calf, when it is born, has to have that kind of a somatic growth in its body. So it needs more of calcium, phosphorus for the bone to develop. Whereas when you consider a newborn baby, it is only the brain growth that is given more importance than the somatic growth. The physical development takes place later, and the first 2 years of life is very important for a baby, and it is required that breast milk is given to the baby to give the proper nutrients in the adequate amounts. So what do we say about bottle feeding? Sometimes people are very happy to bottle feed because it is very easy, but it has a lot of problems associated to it. So now we have to avoid bottle feeding, and that is also a major cause for the stoppage of exclusive breastfeeding to the babies. Now, what does all these do? Why does we have all these as a problem? What happens when you bottle fed, or when you do not give exclusive breastfeeding, or if the mother is considering that breastfeeding is not as important as that? What does all these lead to? Now, what we see is it is malnourishment. So what we see is whether sometimes babies is underfed or overfed. When we say malnutrition or malnourishment, both underfed babies and overfed babies are considered as malnourished babies. So what do we see here? If the babies are overfed or underfed, both are malnourishment. So here sometimes babies are not fed with the adequate amount of breast milk. Sometimes babies are overfed with all kind of milk that is available for the mother. So now what we are going to is, we are just going to move from malnourishment to healthy child. This is what we are going to discuss today. How we are going to achieve this? Three vital things we have to consider. First one is adequate nutrition, second is healthcare and immunization, and the third one is hygiene and sanitation. Now, what is adequate nutrition, healthcare and immunization, hygiene and sanitation doing to the baby? So adequate, in today's discussion, we will take only about the nutritional aspect, because we are getting only through the breast milk and not through any other topics that follow. So we will concentrate on the adequate nutrition, but on a glance, I will tell you the healthcare and immunization, hygiene and sanitation together with breast milk can give a happy happy life to the baby. So what is adequate nutrition? So when we think of adequate nutrition, according to UNICEF, the first 1,000 days of life. So how do we consider the time spanning between the consumption and one's second birthday? And this period, we call it as the window of opportunity, when the foundations of optimum health, growth, and neurodevelopment across the lifespan are established. So the first 1,000 days of a baby, how do we do that? So the first 1,000 days of the baby and the mother's life are crucial for the health and well-being. So what is happening from the day of consumption? We have to take care of the baby. The mother has to be given advice on how to take care of proper nutrition, then proper immunization of the TT boosters that they have to take, and the apart from that, through ICDS, we are supplying nutritional support as a take-home ration for the mothers, so that they can be benefited with the nutritional benefit of the um, uh, uh, SNF that we are supplying. So the first 365 days of the first year, that is the first year, which will include the first 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding and ideal introduction of the complementary food after the completion of the 180 days. Then through the second year, what happens after we have introduced the complementary food at the end of the 180 days, then slowly that complementary foods is being increased with the supply of the breast milk. The breast milk should be continued maybe during the night, and so that the babies are adequately fed. And during the second year of life, maybe by the first year, we should have practiced in such a way that the baby is able to eat all the family food. And breast milk can be continued to the second year, in addition to the breast milk that we are giving. So what is special about the first 1,000 days? The first 1,000 days, the mother has to give all the important that is needed for the baby. So if that is given, then this window of opportunity, well, that is what we call it as window of opportunity, because we find that if we can take care of the babies in the first 1,000 days, we can provide them with a solid foundation for their life. And if the mother is all well nourished, and if she is giving the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months with adequate immunization that is needed for the baby, and including complementary feeding after 180 days, and then till continuing it till the breastfeeding till the second year with additional food, then the baby can have a healthy life. So why we are concentrating on these 1,000 days? Now, when we see in this graph, so what do we see from it is based on the 1,000 days only. So how we are doing it from the day of consumption, from the day the mother is um, finding that she is conceived with a baby, that from that day this antenatal care starts. So she comes and registers to the Anganwadi worker and VHN, and she's given taken for the weight monitoring and the nutritional monitoring, and on the health situation of the mother, as to whether she's anemic, whether she has to have BPs and things like that. And adequate counseling is given to the mother from the beginning of the registration. So what happens when the mother slowly moves into the next stage? Then we see that the first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, ideal advice is given to the mother on the birth, and what all problems she may face after delivery, and how she should prepare herself after delivery. Now, why this is given is because of the lack of preparation. of the mother, she's not able to feed the baby once it is born. So we have to prepare the pregnant lady from the adolescent stage, and then slowly moving into after marriage and then after consumption. What is the birth, how she's going to breastfeed, what all problems she may face, and how she can overcome these problems. All these advices have to be given to the mother before birth, because after birth, when it happens, when there is a curiosity, when the mother has some problem with breastfeeding due to some nipple problems or cleft lip babies or any premature babies, if the milk supply is not if the mother says that the milk supply is not sufficient, then these factor poses stoppage of this exclusive breastfeeding. So it is very essential for the mothers to be taught in the beginning itself. Then slowly when we are going after birth, now due at the time of delivery, and how the baby should be taken care of. So the first thing what she should do, then how she goes on with the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, and starting with the supplementary food after 6 months until the baby is 2 years, how the mother has to take care of the baby. All these are shared with the mothers. Now in the graph, the red volcano shaped peak that we see, what does it denote? Now you see that maternal death, when we think of nutrition, two factors that affects us, the maternal mortality rate and the infant mortality rate. So when we consider these two aspects on nutrition, these happen mostly at the time of delivery, or at the end of the delivery, or immediately after delivery. So this becomes a very crucial point of time in the life of the mother and the baby, and she needs adequate support and guidance from the family and the health workers. Now the green graph that grows to the peak, so what does that show? Now when we say that, when we think of nutrition, so when you exclusively breastfeed the child is getting all the nutrients that is needed by the child. What happens after 180 days? The mothers start feeding on their own, with their own knowledge, and lack of proper guidance, and without knowledge, when they start to feed other things, we find that many mothers do not feed the essential nutrients or the complete balanced diet that is needed for the babies to grow. So this period, after the stoppage, or after the exclusive breastfeeding is stopped at 6 months, and complementary foods are introduced, when the complementary foods are not sufficient or not in a balanced state, then the child is going to suffer with malnutrition. So the concentration, the period of malnourished child, what we observe with the growth monitoring of the child, what do we see is, after 7 months to 2 years, we find that malnutrition takes place in a larger scale among the children due to this habits. Now, after observing all this, the government and the internationally, it was found that from the 1990s, governments have started observing that there is a reduction in breastfeeding, and this has led to many health problems in children, and the rate of diarrhea and other infection among the children newborns were growing to a higher rate. The World Breastfeeding Week is celebrated every first week of August. So this is done from 1990s with the UNICEF and WHO, starting with the Innocenti Declaration on Protection, Promotion and Support of Breastfeeding. So what does this Innocenti Declaration says? It recommends all the governments that are participants of the group to develop national breastfeeding policies and set appropriate national targets. It urged the national authorities to integrate breastfeeding policies into their overall health and development policies, specifying that all healthcare staff should be trained in the skills necessary to implement these policies. So based on these, every government has taken some initiatives to promote, to sustain breastfeeding among mothers. So World Breastfeeding Week 2020 is celebrated with a theme that support breastfeeding for a healthier planet. So what is breastfeeding? When we are talking about breastfeeding, what is special about that? Breastfeeding is a very normal physiological process. It is a natural, God-given process, nothing special to it. It is just giving the mother's milk to the newborn. Continue it during the infant stage or during the second year of the child. So it is a unique natural process. It is very unparalleled. It cannot be compared with any other process that provides ideal nutrients for the infants. So what do we think? The mature milk or the beginning with the colostrum, its precursor colostrum, is considered as the unparalleled balanced food. It cannot be compared with any other food that is available for the which would be very ideal for the normal newborns and the infants. So breast milk promotes the development of infant's immune system, and it meets the nutritional needs of a full-term infant until approximately 6 months of age, when we have to start with complementary foods. So when these complementary foods are not started in the 180 days, then also there is a problem of malnutrition. So what is exclusive breastfeeding? We have already discussed about what is breastfeeding. Now when you say the word exclusive breastfeeding is when the baby is given only breast milk and we don't even give any other additional fluids. So even if it is expressed milk, if the mother is suffering from some other problems and cannot breastfeed a child, then also we can express the breast milk and give it to the baby. So that will be also considered as exclusive breastfeeding, but we say no to bottle feedings and other formula milks. Additional fluids including water or fed, except that we give medicines or vitamin drops or oral drops like polio drops and things like that. Apart from that, if we feed only breastfeeding for the 6 months, then we call it as exclusive breastfeeding. So why is exclusive breastfeeding important till 6 months? What is the harm in giving anything other than breast milk during the first 6 months? What happens? So sometimes we see that people are very happy to introduce honey, water, or some other sugar juices like that. So what happens when these foods are introduced? There is a very much chance for infection of the baby to suffer from. So it is a really harm to the child when we are introducing something, some foreign foods. We may call all these foods as foreign foods, any cow's milk or donkey's milk or honey or sugar water, all these, maybe anything apart from breast milk is harm to the baby. Is breast milk alone sufficient for the baby until 6 months? Yes, true. It is very sufficient for it is fully sufficient for the babies until 6 months, because it has all that is needed by the child in the required ratio and proportion. And so we need not give any other thing, any other supplements to the breast milk. Is it okay to give the child water if it is thirsty during summer? No, it is not advisable to give water. Later we will come to those points when I show you the PowerPoints. You see, breast milk has enough water to be supplied to the baby, and so we need not add any extra water during this. So, okay, now the baby is born. To initiate breastfeeding, the mother should be ready to breastfeed her baby immediately after the baby is born. So breastfeeding should begin within 1 hour of delivery. During this time, most infants are alert and interested in nursing. So breastfeeding should begin within 1 hour of delivery of the child. So what happens? Why is this 1 hour very important? When the mother does not start with the process of feeding the babies within the 1 hour, then what happens is the baby goes to a state of sleep. That means the whole physiological process of lactation gets affected when the mother is not stimulated as well as when the child is not stimulated. So immediately after birth, that is the right time to breastfeed a child. So all mothers should insist on that. And even if it is a cesarean process, the breastfeeding can be started as early as possible. So during this time, most infants are alert and interested in nursing. In some situations, what happens? So the infant or mother was be separated for several hours or even days after delivery, and then what option can be given? So then also we have all the options to start initiate breastfeeding. You can pump the breast, store the milk, and then use it according to the recommendation and as early as possible. That is very important, as early as possible, so that the process goes on. So what is the physiology of breastfeeding? So as we discussed earlier, immediately after birth, what happens when the baby starts sucking the breast? These hormones that are responsible for breastfeeding starts their work. So the oxytocin and prolactin are two hormones which are responsible for the milk production and milk ejection. So when the sucking reflex of the baby, when the baby starts to suck the nipples, what happens? The receptors go and stimulate the posterior pituitary gland, the hypothalamus in the posterior pituitary and anterior pituitary, and they start secreting the hormones that are responsible for the releasing of this oxytocin and prolactin. So prolactin releasing hormone, when it starts, then the milk production automatically starts, and oxytocin is the hormone that is responsible for the ejection of the milk from the breast. So it is all a correlated process. If any one thing is affected, the whole process is being affected. So where does the psychology of the mother comes into play? Now, when the mother is happy about breastfeeding and she starts breastfeeding, this whole physiology grows on without any problems. But if the mother is not willing to breastfeed the baby, or if she is suffering from kind of curiosity whether she can breastfeed, or if you are thinking that the nipple is paining or the breastfeeding process is painful, all these causes or thoughts will just go and affect the whole process of this hormone production. So it is very essential for the mother to be prepared to breastfeed the baby, whatever the situation is. So first thing when we have to think about the starting of breastfeeding is attachment. So attachment refers to the infant's formation of a tight seal around the nipple and most of the areola with his or her mouth. A correct attachment allows the infant to obtain an adequate amount of milk and helps to prevent the nipple soreness and trauma. So when the attachment is the first point that we have to consider when we are breastfeeding a child. So what happens when you attach the child properly? The whole physiology goes on in the proper way, and there is no point to feel the pain or some kind of psychological pressure, so that the breast milk is not produced, and so on and so forth. So the correct attachment should be taught to the mother immediately after birth of the baby by the family members or the healthcare workers. So what do we see? The signs of good attachment is the lower lip should be turned again outward against the breast. The chin should be touching the breast while the nose should be close to the breast. The cheek should be full and the tongue should extend over the lower jaw. So now this kind of an attachment will help the baby to suck the milk from the breast very easily. So the next process associated with it is suckling and swallowing. So after the suckling of the milk, the baby has to swallow. An infant must be able to suckle and swallow correctly to consume an adequate amount of milk. So when you say the infant's jaw should move quickly to start the flow of milk with a swallow heard after every 1 or 2, 3 jaw movements. So what happens? The baby sucks the mother's breast, takes the milk, has it in mouth, and after the mouth is filled, then it is swallowing the whole milk so that we can hear the sound. So this is a normal process, and when there is a problem with the posture, the attachment, suckling and swallowing process, the whole physiology of breastfeeding suffers. So what is colostrum? Now when we have started with the initiation of breastfeeding, the first thing we have to realize is breast milk is a physiological process designed for the baby. So many mothers, when we find in the field, think that from the first day there will be a full flow of breast milk, and if it is not there, then the milk is not sufficient for the baby, and they start with some other foods. Now the truth is, the colostrum is the first secreted milk after delivery, and it is got in very small amount only, a few drops for the few days with it will go on with. So the colostrum is very limited only. It is a very limited, it is obtained in very limited amount, and the mother should not be curious about why this is very less or little, and she should not start with any other food. So what we have to know about colostrum: in the first few days after delivery, the women produce a small amount of thick yellowish milk called colostrum. It is rich in nutrients. What kind of nutrients that is needed for the body, baby's health, and provides all the calories a baby need for the first few days. So what do we see special about the colostrum? It is rich in protein, zinc, vitamin A, immunoglobulins, and antibodies to fight against infection. So now we can see the color of the colostrum. It is yellow in color, should sit in rich in vitamin A, and mature milk for comparison. So that is white in color. This is yellow in color. This is a very thick liquid. It has a lot of immunoglobulins in it. So now when we go for the breast milk also, now there are two variations that you can see. Now as we saw in the previous slide, what is a mature milk? How do we see? It is white in color, it is liquid. So when we see in the breast milk composition, the first thing that comes out of the breast, that we call it as the fore milk. This happens after some 4 or 5 days when the colostrum has stopped, and it is transited into the breast milk. Colostrum slowly transforms itself into the breast milk. So what do we see in the breast milk? There is two things that we have to note. The one is the fore milk and the other is the hind milk. So when when we are feeding the baby, so this curiosity whether there will be sufficient water for the baby, or they have to give additional water to supplement the breast milk, will be sorted out if the mother has a clear idea of what is there in the breast milk. So the fore milk, what we see, from the color itself you can observe it's full of water, and it has some kind of vitamins and minerals that is needed by the baby. It will satisfy all that water requirement for the baby. The what is seen in the hind milk, this hind milk is a concentrated source of nutrients, proteins, calories, vitamins, minerals, whatever is needed according to the baby's age. So what we have to think of the breast milk. Breast milk is produced uh, according to the baby's age. If it is a preterm baby, the breast milk is produced accordingly, and if it is a mature baby, the breast milk is produced accordingly by the body itself. It is all naturally planned, so we need not worry anything about the breast milk content. So we need not worry about the requirement of water also, because breast milk has enough fore milk. The only thing and the only advice that a mother should receive regarding this fore milk and hind milk is the mother should feel one breast fully, and then change the baby to the next breast, so that the fore milk is fully got, and then the hind milk is also fully got by the baby. So what do we see next? So what are the benefits of breastfeeding? Now that if you are going to breastfeed a child, what are the advantages that their child is going to get into? So breast milk contains essential nutrients and components to protect and build the baby's immature immune system, and it is more easily digested than any animal milk and infant formulas. Breast milk constituents vary according to the unique need of the newborn or even the preterm, making it ideal food to promote healthy growth and development. So there is no other option available to the mother except to breastfeed the baby to have a healthy growth. So babies who have fed breast milk, what are the other advantages that we see is all kind of infections: gastrointestinal infection, diarrhea and vomiting, middle ear infections, urinary tract infection, respiratory infections. All these are avoided, prevented when the babies are given breast milk. So breastfed babies are also less likely to be hospitalized for illness and infection, and it prevents obesity in the later childhood and type 1 and type 2 diabetes later in life. So what are the psychological benefits associated with breastfeeding? The close interaction and frequent skin to skin contact during breastfeeding can enhance the bonding and emotional attachment between the mother and the baby, which cannot be supplemented to any other uh, bottles or anything else. Then what are the benefits to the mother? It assists the uterus to return to its original state faster. It helps the woman to lose weight after the baby's birth. It reduces the risk of ovarian cancer and premenopausal breast cancers, and may reduce the risk of osteoporosis also. So the breast milk is associated with all these benefits. Now, now we have discussed that how you will breastfeed a normal baby which is born with 2.5 kgs, 2 to 2.5 and above as a normal baby. Now when a baby is weak, how do we identify a weak baby at birth? So what are the options that is available for these babies? Can they be breastfed? How do we identify them? How can these babies overcome the malnutrition status? So a weak baby, how do we identify them? There are three ways in which we can identify weak babies. The babies who are born before 8.5 months, a baby whose birth weight is less than 2 kg, or a baby who's not able to breastfeed with full vigor right from birth. This may happen due to many reasons, associated reasons, but we can identify these babies as weak babies at birth. So what do we do for the weak babies? Now, for these babies also, breast milk should be given. It should be promoted, and at no cost breast milk should be sacrificed, because breast milk helps the child to overcome the malnutrition status. And one more point is, breast milk is produced according to the requirement of the baby. So if it is no problem, if it is born in 8.5 months or 9 months or a full term, the breast milk modifies itself according to the requirement of the baby. So in case if the child is sick, what do we do? What do people in our community do about feeding when the child is sick? What do mothers feed during the child during illness? So what all the practices that is going on? So whatever be the practice, so what we will say is, we will continue breastfeeding. So the IYCF guidelines, infant and young child feeding practice guidelines, says we can continue breast milk during sickness, and it is the only ideal way to meet the baby's requirements without any additional infection being caused. So even during sickness, the mother should be advised to promote breast milk only. Okay, so we don't want to introduce any other thing. There are many chances of people have different ideas. If a child is sick, they stop breastfeeding and start introducing something else. Even if the mother is sick, the baby can be breastfed. There is no issues about it, and the baby develops itself the immunity that is needed when it is very close to the mother. Okay, so so we can even premature babies. So feeding premature babies with breast milk is possible, but the mother should be encouraged, because most of the time when they get wrong ideas, the mothers are diverted from giving breast milk to some other way of feeding the babies, so that this whole psychological process is lost and the physiological process is lost, and if there is the loss of continuity, lead to stoppage of exclusive breastfeeding. So what is kangaroo mother care? Now if a baby is born with a preterm weight, weight less than the ideal weight of 2.5 kgs, so when the kangaroo mother care plays a very important role. What is kangaroo mother care? We all have seen kangaroos having pockets with the young ones, that is well protected till it reaches the normal stage to survive. Till then, the kangaroo has it in its pocket and provides the warmth and food that is required. So what is special about this kangaroo mother care? In the kangaroo mother care, the babies are given full psychological protection, and they feel the warmth of the mother. They feel secure, and whenever they want to breastfeed, they breastfeed on their own. So the idea is to protect it. It is just like having a full given warmth to the baby. Kangaroo mother care can be given by fathers also, and also the very close mothers or grandmothers of the baby who will be with the baby. It can be promoted with the family members also. So in the kangaroo mother care, till the baby reaches the normal date of delivery, expected date, or till the baby regains its weight, this kangaroo mother care can be fostered by the mother or any family member who are with the babies. So feeding expressed breast milk, there is also other option. If there is a nipple problem, or if the baby is suffering from cleft lip, we cannot feed any other way, then expressed breast milk can be given. Only point to be noted is the breast milk should be given, not any other milk. So if breast milk is given to the baby, then it is very ideal. Then we will consider it as exclusive breastfeeding, because all nutrients that are available in the breast milk is supplied to the baby. Because when we think of animal's milk, all that nutrient requirement is not ideal for the baby. So feeding express breast milk is also an important concern. So why do people consider, what do we people consider as good breastfeeding practices in the newborn babies? So how often should the baby be fed? So breastfeeding, when we think, is it is a demand feeding. Whenever the child is found hungry and when it cries for breast milk, then breast milk should be given. So not all option. One of the major idea that we observe in the field is, whatever the baby cries for, the mother thinks, for whichever cause the baby may cry, the mother thinks it is crying for hunger, and she starts feeding the baby. But that is not the case. The baby knows only to cry, and it cries for everything. So how can we identify the way? That means if a child urinates or it passes motion, then then if it starts crying for the wetness after the napkins are changed, and then it starts crying, so it might be crying for milk. So similarly, the mother should be given some ideas. uh, Sometimes baby even cry for the mother to be nearer, or if in case is any other illness, everything the baby expresses through cry. So that idea of cry should be clearly explained to the mother. And as long as the baby is feeding, you can feed the baby. So what should be the frequency? Frequency is demand feeding. So as and when the baby feels like hungry, then the mother understands the baby is hungry, she can breastfeed. So how vigorously the baby should be breastfed? Should baby be fed from the breast or boast breast during each feed? So it depends on the baby's hunger. So what we will advise is, as we have seen earlier, that the full milk and high milk are important for getting the food complete nutrition. It is very ideal to breastfeed one side, and then the next time the other breast can be used for feeding the babies. So this is a general things that has to be given to the mother, because all these details should be given to the mother before delivery, so that she is well prepared when situation arises. Otherwise, when she finds herself in some problematic situation, mother resorts to any other form of feeding just to console the baby. So in that process, the whole process of exclusive breastfeeding is lost. So what are the government initiatives that supports breastfeeding? Now, with knowing the importance of all this breastfeeding for the babies and the breast milk's importance, government have taken many initiatives to support breastfeeding. So the National Code for Protection and Promotion of Breastfeeding, that was introduced in 1983, the National Nutrition Health Policy 1993, adoption of Global Strategy on Infant and Young Child Feeding, World Health Association 2002, and the amendment that was brought up on it on 2003. Then Mother's Absolute Affection Program, which is launched by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 2016. And recently the National Nutrition Mission, which we call it as the POSHAN, the Prime Minister overall scheme for holistic nutrition. So all these, what they are doing, all these are initiatives taken by the government to promote breastfeeding among the mothers. So now recently introduced maternity leave benefits for the government staff. So mothers who are working in government sector as well as the temporary staffs who are working in the government sector have got 9 months maternity leave benefits. All these are given only to promote breastfeeding. So these, all these initiatives should be taken care of, and at every instant, at every point of time, we have to promote breastfeeding. So when we think of breast milk, it can be considered as the liquid gold that is given to the mother, and it is the mother's first gift to the child. So as mothers to be, as mothers, as grandmothers, as aunt, generally as a women, or are we prepared for saving the life of our children? This is a very important question that we need to answer. Every one of us have to think at whatever level we are. So every place in which we are there is a child that is born and it is grown, and every child, if it is given the breast milk of the mother, we have even, government have even introduced breast milk banks to promote breast milk promotion. If at all for some reasons the mother does not have enough, feels that she doesn't have breast milk, she can also approach the breast milk banks to promote breastfeeding. So it becomes each one of our responsibility uh, to breastfeed our child. So when we are doing that, we will be prepared for saving the life of our children. So thank you for listening. So I think I have given a very brief details of what is breast milk and how we will do it for our babies. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. Now the audience all got a remedy to rectify those constraints. You have given importance for exclusive breastfeeding. Women nowadays all are working. They may think that instead of breast milk, let's give that formula milk, but it's a very wrong decision. Colostrum is very much essential to the baby to increase their immunity power. You explained really in an excellent manner with pictures. On the whole, it is a wonderful presentation, ma'am. Thank you so much. There are certain questions
It is
in chat
therefore and
box.
the inferior share box.
One of the audience asked that can a mother who is corona positive breastfeed her baby? Apt answer Vijayameena ma'am will give in short.
So there is a question on whether corona positive mother can breastfeed her baby. 100% sure she can breastfeed the baby, because the associated risk of corona, and when we think of the advantages of breast milk, it is highly appreciative for a mother to continue breastfeeding without thinking about the negative effects, because the breast milk is providing the baby with innumerable health benefits and immunity, so they can actually do uh, breastfeed the child. Yeah, as even we should at this time I would also like to say that even HIV positive mothers should be advised regarding the advantages of breast milk and possible impacts of HIV infection to the mother. We have studies show that even HIV affected mothers, if they exclusively breastfeed the child rather than combining the artificial method of feeding and breastfeeding, if they exclusively breastfeed the child, the chances, the long-term benefits of breast milk are overlooked with the chances of HIV infections. Thank you.
I generously thank our resource person, Ms. K. Vijayameena, CDPO officer, Honorary Correspondent, Adorable Principal, Vice Principal, for their consistent guidance rendered every time. My dear colleagues, thank you for all your support towards completing this webinar in a successful manner. My special thanks to dear students, other college faculties and other participants who are attending this webinar. Thank you all once again. Now I request you all to fill this feedback form so that e-certificate will be generated to your mail. Thanks for supporting us.